Hey, y'all, and welcome to our Poker Insider space. We're excited for all of you to meet our guest tonight. Until then, we would like to remind everyone that our past spaces have been recorded. So if you've missed any of them or just would like to hear a replay of them, they're on our Twitter feeds. You will find last week's recording of Barry Levy and some others, including Robert Burner, Robert Turner, Chip Burner, Veronica Brill, Dutch Boyd, Nicholas Rigby, Dara O'Kearney, to name a few. Now for a word about our sponsor, Elevator Results, whose purpose is to provide a service to help people reach their desired fitness goals, whether it be to gain weight, to lose weight, or to improve your sports performance. Elevated Results can help you reach your goals. Now, let me introduce you to our guest. Our guest is originally from Santa Monica, California. Amanda is a journalist with articles published in the Wall Street Journal, the LA Times, and the Huffington Post, to name a few. She has also authored a book whose title is A Girl's Guide to Poker. Amanda has a Hendon Mob total live earnings of just over $102,000, with a best live cash of just over $44,000 for her 341st finish in the 2023 WSOP main event. Amanda, alongside her dad, came in third place in the 2021 WSOP tag team event. Speaking of her dad, David, he too cashed in this year's main event, which was the first time in the tournament's history that a father and daughter made the money. Please help welcome Amanda Botfeld to our Poker Insider space.
Hello. So happy to be here. I didn't even know that statistic that it was the first time a father and daughter cash in the main event. So that's really exciting.
It's very exciting. And please, I don't know if you remember Brian. I know we've been in a space before with you, but Brian and I co host this every Friday night.
Yes, it was so exciting when I got the message, and it's an honor to be amongst such an amazing list of other speakers.
Well, thank you for joining us. I'm one of your biggest fans and I consider you a friend. My first
Hmm.
question is I'm going to ask the first question and then I'll let Brian rip into it. Who's the better poker player, you or your dad?
You're my dad. um, okay, that's a good. We've gotten that question before. I will answer it diplomatically. Uh, my father, he's a cash game player, and he's really more oriented towards that mindset. And I am much more of a tournament player. And I was the one that
Oh,
really, got my dad into tournaments. And a while ago, I don't know if you've heard of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast, but after my
yes.
dad and I, yes, it was fantastic. After my dad and I uh, final tabled the WSOP tag team tournament together, we actually did a joint podcast together where my dad kind of talked about his life and experience growing up playing poker and what it was like playing poker in the 70s, um, Gardena and cash games, and how that really, really, he believes that everything he's achieved in business is a result of playing poker.
Oh, interesting. And
And
that's a
yeah,
big foundation for poker power, isn't it?
absolutely, absolutely. And I helped do their curriculum and I used to teach classes for Poker Power. But so yeah, my father and I, we did this podcast together, and so he had this really strong poker background that gave him a really strong business background, but he never played tournaments, and he never played tournaments until I started dragging him to them. Uh, and I guess the last thing I'll say, and you can ask questions on this, is my favorite story, and this really shows a lot about my father's character. Is so I started dragging him to these tournaments, and it was not going well, and he wasn't doing well in tournaments, and he just wasn't really getting it. And so what I did is I set him up. on an account on America's Card Room, and I said he can start playing free rolls to practice, right?
Right.
And these free rolls at the time, they would take about 7 hours. They were around 700 players. Uh, and if you got 10th place, you got 25 cents. But if you got first place, you got $2.25.
I love it.
Yeah, and for reference, my father, he's self-made and had a hard childhood, but he's made a lot of himself. He's a commercial real estate developer, and recreationally, his game is 510. So if he's going to play a cash game, that's what he's playing.
Right.
And for him to humble himself and to play these free rolls. So I set him up and I start getting these messages from my mom saying, "What is your father doing until 3 in the morning?" And then my dad's texting me, "Hey, I'm in the top 20. Hey, I'm at the final table." And after 3 weeks, exclusively from these free rolls, my father had over $4 in that account.
I love it. I
That is great.
absolutely love it. Go ahead, Brian.
That's what we're here
Yes.
for, Sherry. Like, honestly, so much of what you just said, just resonates with me so much. On a couple things, I'll just say a couple things, and then I have a couple questions. But as an entrepreneur, I can't tell you the number of times I've ran into situations where I was confident, and because with poker, just teaches you so much to control your emotions, control what you're giving
Mhm.
off. As we move into modern technology, you see people on these web meetings, they don't want to put themselves on camera because they're worried about how they might look, or what they might, especially if they're
Mhm.
selling something. And being able to you know go into a sales meeting and be on camera, and it feels very much like a poker game. You're sitting at the table there, and that kind of thing. And then the other thing I want to say is, what you said about your dad and the tag team. I gotta.
Oh, Brian, we're losing you, bud. You're cutting in
Oh,
and
can you
out,
hear me?
Brian.
I'm cutting
Yes,
out.
now we can. So you cut out at about the tag team.
Yeah, what I was saying is, one of the best memories I have of my dad was playing the tag team event with him. And
Mhm.
we didn't quite, we got pretty deep, but not about three tables, I think, left. And it was just amazing. And I will say that I am the better poker player, because my dad was terrible. We didn't have that ACR $4 story. So
Absolutely. Well, yeah.
you know um, so talk about a little bit about that. Like, I was interested about your main event run. Like, what does that feel like getting down? A lot of people think 400 people. I mean, that's what, 40 some tables, 50 tables, let's call it. Like, that's not a lot of people left. What were you thinking, like, as you heading into those later stages?
Um, oh my gosh, it was a blast and a half. Uh, the way, so I had through Poker Power, I'd gotten to play the main event before. I had a very, very small piece of myself. I sold action on stakings and it went horribly. I actually was eliminated on day one. And it was a really awful experience in that the table I got was like so tight. And here I thought I was going to like bluff and battle and play against all these great players. And it was just everyone was desperate to min cash. Uh, and then I played it again, similar. I just sold a ton of myself. And I was like, there's no way I can get this tight of a table again. And I get there, and the first guy I see is one of the same people from my table the year prior. So then that does,
No.
Oh
so,
no.
and then this table is the same experience, and it's so horrifically tight. No one gets eliminated. So everyone's kind of just passing around a starting stack. And I busted the very beginning of day 2 and it was awful. But but I did get to play next to Scott Ball. And I won, well, there was a Twitter contest for women in poker. You had to make a video on, why you should win a main event seat. And I got second place in this contest, and Scott Ball ended up donating my seat. So this year I was like, I'm going to do things differently. I don't want another lousy main event experience. And so, you know how you can pick your day 1? I was like, people are, I'm like, what day 1 should I pick? Which day 1? And people said, any day 1 is fine as long as it's not July 4th. Because if you go on July 4th, that's going to be all the international pros flying from all over, and it's going to be really competitive and really tough. So I said, great, let's do July 4th.
Of course you did.
Of course, I'm like,
Yes.
this is, I'm like, let me add them. Okay, this is the main event. Like, I'm not here
Let's go.
to try to, yeah, let's go. It's like, I'm here to play against the best and test myself and hopefully prove myself. And not only did I play July 4th, but for an extended period of time, and there were headlines in Poker News, I was chip leader. And
Hell yeah.
yeah, and it was not because I don't remember hitting any gin hand. It's not like I made a set or a straight, but it was like 3-betting like crazy and, and check raising this and with gut shots and just, people were terrified of me. And that was fantastic. And then that really momentum carried on through the rest of the tournament. And I remember at the end of day 3, I got a really tough table draw. It was a bunch of Russian pros at my table that were all speaking Russian together. And I think overall, I was the only American at my table at the end of day 3. And a lot of us had really, really big stacks. So at first it was like very nerve-wracking, but then it was like, you know what? This is the main event. Let's do it, right?
Right.
And, I just kind of went nuts. And there was this one, and I just kind of really trusted my gut. There was one hand that made Poker News where I 6-bet ace-6 offsuit pre-flop. And the guy was this Russian player, and he wasn't really warm or friendly. He was very serious. And so his compliment meant so much to me. And he turned to his friend and he says, world class. He said world class pre-flop. And then there was another hand where he raises, his friend 3-bets, and I just kind of listened to my instincts. And I looked down on the button and I have queen 4 diamonds. And then and I'm just like, I think this is the spot. And so then I 4-bet it. And, and his Russian friend's like, do you have ace-6 again? And folds. And I say, better. And I show the queen 4. And, and then his other friend, he's like, I told you, world class. And I look at all these guys, and most of these men are, twice my age. And there was this look of like humor and terror. It was like, we are deep in the main event. This is the very end of day 3. And it was like, part of them wanted to crack up. And part of them was like, I don't know if I could do that.
Right.
So it was that to answer that's a very long-winded answer, right? But to answer your question, it's like running deep in the main event. To me, it was like sailing, and I was having so much fun, and I think I really accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in that I went out there, and again, I wanted to test myself and prove myself.
And you did. Good for you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Good for
And
you.
yeah,
Now
and to do it
tell
with my
us.
dad was extraordinary.
Well, and both of you cashing is just amazing. I just think that is just so fun. I mean, what a great memory.
Mhm.
Now, let me ask you, have you incorporated GTO into your game?
It's a good question. Um, when you're first learning poker, and especially in this day and age, you learn all about balance and foundations and how to play in a GTO style. So I had a pretty good foundation in that. Um, the older I get, the more experienced I get. I think the better I am able to recognize patterns and tells and behaviors in people. So I think the older I get, the more exploitative I get because I feel like my instincts are getting better. Um, so I think that's where I'm at with that. My husband is a professional poker player, and he's a really good hybrid, and I've learned a lot from him as well.
And I think hybrid's the way to go personally. That's what I'm comfortable with. I have just tried to make myself educated on GTO. And, if I happen to incorporate something in my game that day, then I do. But I am definitely more exploitive. Um,
Mhm.
what what advice would you give to someone on a downswing?
Hmm. Is this someone who is a professional or who is a player, like
Just,
who like plays recreational?
I would say rec player. Let's talk about a rec player.
Let's talk about a rec player. Fantastic. Um, all right, I'm gonna say the line that got my husband to take me on a date. So we were at a poker table, and you know, I was a little hesitant to go out with a poker player, and he's like, "Let's go to the bar, let's go out." And I said, "No, no, no, you're a poker player, do your thing." And he said, "There are more important things in life than poker." Which was very smooth. So I said, "Okay, I'll get a drink with you." But that's what I would say to someone on a downswing as well is, you know, being able to have other stuff in your life going on. And that's probably something I've also learned from my father too, is he's such a dynamic person with a lot going on in life. And I really love the whole world he's built for himself. Um, so I just think having that perspective,
Yep.
there are more important things in life than poker, is so extremely valuable.
I think you're on to something there. Life is
Hmm.
bigger than that poker game, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's poker helps you get better at life. Uh, your whole life
Amen.
shouldn't be about getting better at poker.
Amen. Now, since you brought up your husband, I
Mhm.
promised somebody earlier in the week who, when I was telling them we were going to have you on tonight, I promised that person that I would ask you because we all know you're married and taken. If you have a sister because they're interested.
Oh my gosh, I do not. I have a brother. But that's what I tell my girlfriends who like have trouble meeting guys. I'm like, I know where a lot of them go.
Right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
I
Uh,
love it. All right, so I've asked the question, so y'all know who asked me to do that, so you can tell them. Brian,
Oh
what you
my
got, buddy?
gosh. Are we supposed to guess who asked you to ask that question?
I would never throw him under the bus like that.
I'm not gonna guess. I'm just kidding. But it would be fun. We could come up with all kinds of funny names. Um, so with the tag team event, like I was saying, I think it's one of the most underrated events on the schedule that people don't
mhm.
really pay attention to and that kind of thing. Um, what was your guys' strategy for that? Like who played first or how much, or did one person play a lot or another a little? How did that change when you got down to the final table? Those kind of
Sure.
things.
So what happened was we went in thinking we were going to play it more or less equal. And then my dad overplayed aces and lost almost all of our chips. So then I was like, I'm jumping in. And for the record, near the end of day one, we had three big blinds.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was pretty bad. And we were actually a little bit upset about having made day 2 because it was in the middle. It was a late start, like at 1 or 2 p.m. So you couldn't play any other tournaments.
Right.
And we're like, this is stupid. We're going to play this, and now we can't play any other events that day. And we're going to be out in an hour. But anyways, I get some spots. I start to chip up. And so I'm really kind of taking over. And my dad says, please, can I play? 20 minutes. And I'm like, okay. And so my dad plays for 20 minutes and then I tag back in. I play one hand, only one hand. And we win this ginormous pot. And my hands are shaking from the adrenaline. Right. And it's like, and I'm just totally shaking. And I'm like, you know what? This is what the tag team's all about. Dad, you're back in. Because I wasn't like in that super stable mindset. I'm like, I'm going to have, let's not lose the chips that we've worked so hard for. That's what's having a teammate's all about. And
Right.
to be honest, not only did my dad play the majority of day 2, but he played against all the pros and had the toughest table draws. And I remember, my dad and I, we talk about our table image is similar with me being a woman and him being older. People expect us to be very conservative. And,
It's so true.
which is so true. And my father said he's really had to flip his strategy because he said when he was younger, everyone thought he was bluffing. And now that he's older, that doesn't work. Sorry, being tight doesn't work anymore. So I said, Dad, how's it going on day 2? And he said, we've won every hand for the past 2 hours. And I bluffed every one of them.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and my dad's like, people are like 65-year-old guys betting, gotta fold. Anyway, so it was really an earned win. And so then it was a true back and forth. So he played several hours of day 2. I kind of closed this on day 2 and I played the majority of the final table. But it was a really, really, truly a team effort. It was so exciting. It was so fun. He was doing phenomenally. And I was so grateful to be able to tag him in there and to be able to breathe for hours and him to just, it was awesome passing the baton and he did fantastic.
That is so awesome. Yeah. Mine was the opposite, Amanda. Like my dad donked off probably half of our chips to start with. And then when we were walking over for day 2, I said, so you're going to tag back in, right? He said, I'm not going anywhere near that table. That's it. You take us the rest of the way. He didn't want to play. But Amanda, I did give him a 10-year ban from the World Series of Poker for cheering on the turn on my first main event at the end of day 1. 10-year ban that got him. So he was wanting to be on his best behavior.
Aw.
Poor daddy-o.
Yeah.
The final 3 tables is very impressive.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like the thing about the main too that's interesting. I had one run like 300th or something like that, I think, one year. And I just remember, like, obviously you get to the whatever, everybody's in the same room, that's whatever it is. But a period of time goes by and all of a sudden, like, you start seeing the room clear out. And at a 400, 300, that's not a lot of tables left, for the main event. And you start, I mean, at least for me, I started to think about, like, this could happen from here. This is like not like insanely improbable. I've had tournaments that I've won from, 300th place or 300, or certainly 1,000 people, 2,000 people in a tournament, but 300 people, that's not a lot of people, not as many people as it sounds. And certainly, you know, think about it in terms of the lottery, man. Like, a 1 in 300 chance at 10 million, like, that is pretty. I'll take those odds any day. Like, that's a pretty good deal. So it's just a really special tournament. And I think that's one of the things, Amanda, is like getting to have that experience, and certainly getting to do it, several times isn't something that everybody gets to do. And just to feel so special, like to be able to do that and have fun, and just the dream to at least make, one of the times make a run at it, so it's cool. It's what it's all made about, that's what we're here for. Like I like to hear the stories about different people's experience in poker, and these times where they've had deep runs and things like that. But what you said is really important. Like it's all about, life isn't all about poker, and I think that's really important. I think the side of poker that's not so good is people that get wrapped up in, and they're gambling with money that they don't have, and that kind of thing. So it's really important, like for everybody. Like it's a thing that if you're a pro or not a pro, like at the end of the day, it's not everything. It shouldn't be everything in your life, So can you talk a little bit about your book?
Sure. Just one last thing. Yeah, it's with poker, just having other things going on in your life, I think is really, really important. Not just financially, but just in terms of, everyone I think has played poker at this level. To be on a Twitter space has probably played for more hours than they could, fathom at one point. And, and it just all becomes a blur, and, that has its place too. But to just have other anchors in your life. Because then if you do have like a big run, like for example, like I did in the main event, it's so extraordinary to be able to share it with the people that matter, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you want other things going on to even make your poker life more meaningful. As in terms of my book, so a Sherry, yep.
A Girl's Guide to Poker is the name of it.
A Girl's Guide to Poker. Sherry has taken the most brilliant pictures with it, warmed my heart.
Oh, I'm going to post one.
Please post one. I love it. Thank you. And, I wrote, so I was, as mentioned, I did have a couple articles published in some big newspapers because I used to work as a writer. I used to work as a political writer. And I was living in DC, and that's when I first really got into poker. Like I knew a little bit from my dad growing up, but not nearly as much as I thought I knew. I'm nowhere near being able to play even at like a casino daily tournament level. So I tried really hard to get into poker. They opened up a new casino right outside of DC where I was living, and I couldn't understand any poker book. They were just so technical. As a writer, I'm not really a big math person, and they were really dry, and they were just so difficult for me to understand. So I took on poker basically as a writing project. And I was like, at the time, I was pretty naive. I didn't realize how complicated and intricate poker was. So I was like, I want to write a book, learn how to play poker in 30 minutes or in under an hour. That was originally my vision for this book. And then that turned into a major project in a life. And here's where I am now. But I wanted, one, to write the poker book that I needed in starting. Two, I wanted to write it in a female voice. And three, I wanted it to be funny. So every line, every paragraph in my book has a punchline. And I really worked on that. And it's quick and it's funny. Like the back cover is, so you want to play poker. Maybe it's the cash, maybe it's the challenge, maybe you're turned on by guys in hoodies and sunglasses. That's the way the book reads. And I guess the last thing I'll say about it is, it's not designed like a novel you have to read from start to finish. It's designed on purpose that you can kind of open it to any chapter and hop right in. So maybe your thing is tournaments, hop in. Maybe you're really new, you need hand rankings, you can just skip to the chapters. And I think that's how a lot of us really learn poker, is it's not one big giant sit down. It's kind of like peppering in more information as we go. And hopefully it's an entertaining experience.
I think that might help those of us with ADD, Sherry. Not that Not that
I
I
just,
know anyone particular.
yeah, there's a fish. Brian needs to get that for Abby for Christmas. A girl's
Mhm.
guide to poker for any
That
guy
is
that
true.
has a girl in his life, a daughter, a wife, a girlfriend, sister, mom. Get her this book. It's a good one.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, I think like, any kind of training and that kind of thing really really helps, because you start to see different people's perspectives. And there's, I think the mistake that people make is thinking, like, with the solver era, that poker's like, that it's solved, that there's, it's solved until you run up against the person that doesn't make the decision that the computer says that they should have made. So if you you know like, the lady calls with jack 4, it's like, yeah, sometimes that happens. So and I think it's really important to understand, different people's perspectives. I know that some of the things that I've learned most about is understanding, when I've learned something that's helped me the most is just looking at things from somebody else's perspective, and understanding, maybe why they played the way that they did, and that kind of thing. The main event, it's funny, is like one of the places where I learned the most. I'm playing with these people that, you know, one table I had that was just absurd, and they're playing completely different than I would play, and their perception of things was completely different, and it really taught me a lot in terms of, some of the things that I was doing wrong. But I think that, books and training sites and all of that is really important. So
Well, I'm
it's
glad you brought that up because I wanted to ask Amanda, have you hired a pro for yourself or do you prefer videos or books? How do you learn poker? How do you study?
It's a good question. I have periodically worked with professional coaches before. Um, the way I started was I found a pre-flop chart, which cards to play when, and I made 180 flashcards that I color coded with stickers. So the way I started is by by making little flashcards, and that'll get you a very, very, very long way if you're just starting out.
Right.
Um, like my starting point in poker is I remember I went to that new MGM casino and I sat down and this guy said, "You played that hand horribly." And I said, "How so?" And he said, "Well, for starters, I could see your cards." So that was my starting point. I didn't even know how to hold my cards right. And he was absolutely right. I played the hand terribly. And then I made these pre-flop charts and I drilled these flashcards. And 3 months later, I entered my first tournament and I won first place. So I do think that flashcards can be very, very effective. I watched pros play on stream. My favorite source, if you're at the level, is watching Bart Hanson's Crush Live poker videos. That's what my husband and I watch together all the time, where it's like on his call-in show where people go over a hand. But I've got to say to Brian, it's Brian, right? Yes.
Yeah.
To
yeah.
Brian, his name's cut off here. To Brian's point, when I first started learning poker, I was coming from, is this a good spot to bluff? Like in theory, like, is someone supposed to bluff here? And now as I get more experienced, my first question is this person even interested in bluffing? Why are they here at the poker table? What is their MO? What is their reason for being here? Because some people, it doesn't matter whether or not this is as we call a natural bluff spot. Some people are there because they just want to hang out. And then some people are going to be over bluffing because, they just turned 21 yesterday. So yeah, I do think to answer your question, I've done it all, Sherry. I've done the YouTube videos, I've read other books, I've had poker coaches, I've had a lot of conversations with people in the poker world, and most of my dinner conversations with my husband are, so I had King Jack, and then we go from there. Um, it's like
Very poker player
yeah.
wasn't such a bad idea after all, huh?
Oh yeah. My father, he calls my husband and I the brain trust. So whenever if it's like a late night and he's driving home from the casino, he'll call us and he'll go over the hand histories with us. So Haley's there. Hello. Um so I've done all of it, but again, I think there's no shortcut to it, but it's so invaluable is when you can learn people's behaviors and motivations and why they're doing things.
And never assume they're playing at the level you are, right? I think
So that's the thing about leveling. There's like level 1, what my cards are, level 2, what your cards are, level 3, what you think my cards are, level 4, what I think that you think my cards are, and it goes on and on and on and on. Uh, the trick is to be one level ahead.
all right.
If you're too many levels ahead, you end up, as they say, leveling yourself, and then it backfires.
I love that description.
I've had that happen before, Sherry.
I think I have to once or twice.
How
I think
rude is
everybody,
that? You played that hand terribly. Like, I mean, geez, who says that? Like, there are
Yeah,
some
I know, but
dumb
he was right.
people.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I just like people are just weird and just weird. Like, I just don't know why. So, especially like this isn't like a friend or something. This is just somebody that you just met. You know, like
Well,
I don't know.
I was able, because one, it was kind of funny when he said I could see your cards, which was true, and then he's like, "You had Ace King of Clubs," and I just checked the whole thing and whatever. Um, I was able to take the advice because I was so bad. But what was actually offensive, but had a positive outcome, was that very, very first tournament I played. Is I busted immediately, and I was going to rebuy. And this guy who is bragging about all of his tournament wins at this like $100 daily tournament, he looks me straight in the eyes and he says, "You're bad at poker." And he told me to save my money and to go home. And which was kind of hurtful because this was my very first tournament I ever played. Um, and I rebought, and 7 hours later, him and I were the top two. And he was trying to make all these deals wildly in his favor. And I'm actually grateful he was such a jerk, because if he wasn't, I probably would have just taken a deal um, and not learned to kind of stand up for myself and try to go all the way. And I actually I won first place, and I took no deal against that guy, which was so
Team
satisfying.
No Chop against the Jerks. Team No Chop
No
against
chop.
the
Team
Jerks.
no chop. And I think, yeah. And yeah, so that was phenomenal and so satisfying and like a real life Hollywood movie. And then when I would teach these women's poker classes, I would share that, because there's so much pressure to chop in tournaments.
Right.
And sometimes it makes sense. I'm not always against a chop. There are times that it makes sense to chop, but coming in with the attitude like I'm going to chop by default.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think that's a really healthy mindset. I don't think that's very in the spirit of a poker tournament. And especially because the point of these women's poker classes was to kind of empower them to be more confident and bolder.
Right.
So, right. I thought, and just to be able to have that initial foundation of you don't have to chop and you can go for it, I think is really, really important.
Amanda, my friend Donna has joined us, and I think she has a comment or question. Go ahead, Donna.
Hi, Sherry. Hi, Brian. Hi, Amanda. Nice to finally speak to you.
Hi there.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Are you, I think we're in a similar time zone right now. Aren't you in England?
I am, yes.
All right. Well, happy Twilight.
I'm on American time. It's these nutters.
It's the
Yeah, me too. I'm actually currently in Athens, Greece. It is 3:40 in the morning for me right now. But
Oh
I'm
my
on American
goodness.
time too.
join us. Thank you so much for doing this, Amanda.
Of course.
What is your favourite hand to play? And also, have you got a bogey hand that you don't play? Like, I know Sherry, she hates jacks.
Amen.
And Jack's is a running joke.
My favorite hand to play. You know, first of all, I don't really like this answer, so this is not my answer. But my second, Doug Polk says, whenever anyone asks you that, you, as a poker player, your answer should and always will be aces. I get it. And and I think
Right.
when you're in a downswing, the answer is aces. But when you're just playing poker normally, I like I really like Ace Queen. I like that for a couple of reasons. One, it is the girl version of Ace King. Two, it is a hand where it's like, you can re-raise it, and if someone re-raises back, you kind of know that you're usually beat, as opposed to if you have like queens or something, it's a little bit, you don't know. So I think Ace Queen's a really, really strong hand that's a little bit easier to play. And then four, when I start, I can't even count. Three, finally, when I first was learning how to play poker, it was for the most part learning from books and videos and things. I didn't really learn as much from a home game like other people did. So I never knew that like people were scared of ace queen or jacks. Like I just kind of saw the pre-flop chart and it said re-raise. Plus, when you're a beginner, you think king five suited's a great hand. So, I was like, wow, these are amazing hands. So I was kind of from the get-go trained to play that very aggressively. Uh, so I think it kind of cleared a lot of superstition about it for me. And at one point when I don't play too much online, mostly being in America, but I did kind of get some bit of a database of hands, and and ace queen was actually one of it was like most profitable hands. So I just thought must have been playing that really well because I was probably brought up to play it in an aggressive style. I didn't have all the things that surround all the superstitions that surround it. On that note, which hands do I not like? Um, Probably King Jack offsuit or King 10 offsuit. I don't know. I think you can sometimes my test is someone a really good poker player? It's what's their relationship to King 10? And then the reason why, if you want to know if someone's good at poker is because someone who's very much an amateur who would never really play at a casino, who's just kind of playing poker for fun, they're going to think King 10 is a great hand. They're going to be like, sure, I love King 10, I play it, versus someone who plays regularly and break even profitably at a casino. You say, what do you think of King 10 offsuit? And they're like, I'll fold that.
Easy fold.
Easy, right? Easy fold.
Easy
So
fold.
I think King 10 is the smell test. I think King 10 is the line.
Yeah, easy fold.
I just failed, Sherry. My
Thank
favorite
you for
hand's
your
King
answer,
10.
Amanda.
Oh, your favorite.
There goes there's
Offsuit.
Offsuit.
offsuit. Of course he's offsuit. Oh, go ahead, Donna. Do you have something else, love?
No, thank you for your answer, Amanda. Much appreciated.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. What are you doing in Greece, love? Are you guys living there now, or are you vacationing?
We are here for a couple months. We're working on uh, getting over to the US, but it takes a lot of paperwork and a long time. So in the meantime, we're kind of bouncing and traveling around. Uh, in the last 2-3 years, we've lived in Niagara Falls, Mexico, Ireland, London, Calgary, Greece, back to Greece. So
Well, I'm
I've been
thinking
what?
waiting on paperwork to get it to the U.S. is probably a nice gig if you're doing all that.
Yeah, I absolutely, like I said, we're back to Greece. This is our second time being here for a couple months. We were here about a year ago, and I love it. The only thing that's a little challenging is the vampire hours. Kind of like Donna, everyone I interact with is on US time,
Right.
but I do absolutely love it here. Greece is fantastic. It's just, I can't say enough good things about it, and it is the birthplace of my two favorite things, democracy and astrology. So love
Amen.
being here.
Sure. So, are we coming to the WPT in December?
I hope so, most likely. I do a lot of projects for WPT Global. Uh, that being said, it will really depend on how far we are at in our immigration paperwork. If I'm going to be able to make it back to the States by then or not, it's going to be close.
All right. Well, I hope so. Was lucky enough to be a recipient of your hard work with WPT, and I thank you again for that. And Donna's going to be coming over from the UK to play, and I just booked my ticket, so hope I get.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Big hugs we do. For those of you that don't know, Sherry in the to the ladies event last year, she brought everyone gift bags. I mean, how amazing is that? How good for poker is that? It was just so extraordinary.
Well, thank you. I just like to have fun, and like to make sure other people are having fun. And if you lost, if you were at my table and lost, you got to take something out of the shopping bag of goodies. So it was fun, and people were surprised. And if I put out a tweet, if you saw me and said something to me, or I think I was, give me a hug, you could also take a present out of the shopping bag. So, and it was so much fun.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's so good for poker. Similar to you, what I really wanted my mission to be in poker is to make it more wholesome.
Yes.
And you're doing the work right there.
Well, thank you for the kind words, as you are too. And Donna is too, as a matter of fact. And, you know, I just feel like each of us can do a little bit of it, and all together it makes a big difference. And so I'm happy to play my part, as they say. Do you have a favorite poker game? Do you play the mixed games? Tell us about that.
Oh, that's an easy answer. No. Uh,
Neither do I.
I only play poker as in Texas Hold'em, two cards. That is my thing. The reason why though, um, is again, I think there's just it's it's not all about the cards, right? Texas Hold'em, no limit Texas Hold'em. There's just so much room for, well, incorporating your personality and other people's personalities. You're just not as much as other games at the mercy of the deck.
Right.
I think you have more room. So I'm a big fan of Texas Hold'em, and I'm scared of the other games.
The funny thing is, I love Hold'em so much that it holds me back from diving into the other games, because I just love Hold'em. Like, I really truly love Hold'em. And Brian and I are supposed to learn Raz so we can enter the WSOP Raz tournament next year, but I don't think
Unless
either
ODB plays, then I'm not playing.
that he's not doing it. But I don't think either one of us have made a step in that direction anyway. So um,
Not yet.
so here we are. Do you have a favorite poker room, Amanda? Do you have a favorite place?
Ooh. Um, I gotta say, the Hollywood Park Casino I think it's just really up and coming. Um, when I'm in Los Angeles, where I'm from, that's my favorite room to play at there. And I just think that it's much friendlier, in my opinion, than the other LA poker rooms. That area is really getting built up. I think there's just a lot of kind of action and energy in the games. Uh, I did originally start playing poker at the MGM National Harbor, which is absolutely gorgeous. And I think as a woman getting into poker, if it wasn't such a nice, comfortable space, I probably there's a very good chance I wouldn't have gotten into poker, and I would not have gotten as far because I just really, really enjoyed being in that environment. And then I went to other casino card rooms, and I was like, "Whoa, this is not the same thing." So I think that matters greatly.
I cannot disagree with that statement. And, sometimes when I'm having discussions, men will ask me, well, what can we do differently to get more women involved or make them feel more comfortable? And it's really, there's so many answers to that question, but it's just making the experience good. And you don't have to do anything
Hmm.
special other than be friendly and don't be a jerk. Like, just be normal. And a well-run poker room
Yeah,
is
don't let these guys that want to be weird
yeah,
play.
yeah, and
Yeah.
a good poker room, that sets the stage, right? And the staff there sets the stage for the experience for everyone. And so when you say you were lucky to start out at one of the best,
Mhm.
really awesome. I mean, you're here today because of it.
Absolutely. I mean, the MGM casino, people who never played any table games, poker games, whatever, they went to visit it because it was like a big landmark opening. My roommate dragged me there, and just everyone was like waiting, for 2 hours type thing to get in. I waited like a month or two till it died down a little bit, but it was such a spectacular venue. And I think that really, really mattered. I think the space, the environment you're in from both the people, but even just you know, here I'll not to again. I used to work in politics, and there are some studies and some debates, but like there's something called the broken windows theory, where it's like if you're in a neighborhood with a lot of broken windows, people break more windows. But if you're in a neighborhood that's better maintained and taken better care of, then people kind of behave better.
It's
And
very
I Yeah, and I think that's true in a casino environment too, is like, if it feels gross and dirty and sleazy, I think people aren't on their best behavior. The same way as it's like, when I was playing in DC, a lot of times guys were in poker tables and suits. It felt like a really, and I think that kind of required everyone, even if you're not wearing a suit yourself, to kind of sit up a little straighter and be a little bit more, play the sophisticated vibe a little bit more.
Now I know you're working on immigration paperwork, but are you working on any other projects, another book, any other projects?
Uh, I am. I'm actually, this is going to sound so out of left field for poker people, and you guys are probably going to think I'm nuts. But, for the past several years, I've had an astrology YouTube channel, and where it's like you look at celebrity relationships, like should Brad Pitt, be with Jennifer Aniston or Angelina Jolie type thing. And I just kind of kept on getting people asking me for readings, and I kind of got really into it and studied it. And now I have partnered with a relationship coach who's been a relationship coach for 10 years, and I was her kind of resident astrologer. So getting into people's like love and compatibility profiles and taking clients that way. So that's what we've been doing the past few months.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I
and I'll
love this
try to
so
tie
much.
it to poker just so I don't sound completely nuts. But even if you're not, I know, I am so off the deep end here. But anyways, I'm extremely passionate about it. But I think it's that idea of wanting to know why people act the way they act. It's
Right.
all about behavioral psychology, what someone's interested in. And then, of course, when you're doing relationship compatibility, you're looking at, what are people's um, needs, which is different from person to person.
I love this so much. You just don't even know.
Oh my gosh, we'll have to. Yeah, I could answer questions on this too, but
Anybody
that's
has
my
questions
area of expertise.
poker or Amanda's new endeavor, please come on up. Questions or comments, hit that request button in the bottom left of your screen. Join us with your questions or comments. I love that so much, Amanda. I'm so excited about that. You just don't even know.
Oh my gosh, me too. It's been so amazing and so rewarding when like someone feels like really heard, seen, and understood.
Right.
And it's just, look, everyone loves talking about what they like and what they don't like and what they really value. And being able to really, really, really get inside someone's world and headspace. And then, of course, it's fun for the most part. I mean, some people like come for career stuff, but it's usually in the context of compatibility and relationships. And so then that just makes it so much fun.
I love it. I'm a hopeless romantic, so that's just right up my
Aww.
love it. That's amazing. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, I was just thinking about this whole thing, and And what you were saying about the the people, it's also, or the like the casinos and how they're, the broken windows thing. I think that that is true, but it's also like what 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 the floor and people let them get away with,
Hmm.
let people get away with. And there's a lot of times where a tournament director is afraid to kick somebody out and that kind of thing. And it's like I think that a lot of these places, like, they know who the problem people are, and
Hmm.
they're repetitive. And like in LA, I haven't been back for several years because of a situation that I had with somebody that was just stupid. Like, the guy was just, I mean, total loser, like, just saying nonsense. And I'm there to have a good time, honestly. Like, yeah, obviously poker's about winning, but you know, I most people are there to have a good time, and people that are doing that kind of stuff ruin it. Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah. Are you planning on doing any tournaments in the near future?
Tournaments in the near future, definitely when I'm back stateside. So we'll see how that coincides with the WPT. So hopefully, soon enough in the future. I mean, you can't keep me away from tournaments. I will agree with what Brian said about having those few instances just kind of permanently colors your experience. And I had a horrible floor decision myself at Commerce that always just kind of gives me a bad taste in my mouth, where a guy actually took chips out of his sleeve. So I thought I was calling a $50 bet, and he added it on to several hundred. And the floor's response was, he said, um, it's wrong, but I don't want to take it up with the gaming commission.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty revolting. Um, and
Wow.
and those things stick with you. So, in terms of policing the environment, that matters
Wow.
too. And that right? Yeah.
That's just, I'm a little bit speechless. I thought I heard it all, but that one,
Yep.
wow.
Yep.
Wow. That wouldn't have went over too well with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Wow.
was pretty new in my poker career at that time, so I didn't really know how to, I just kind of gave in.
Right.
And so, right, and it was like, but here we are years later, and and I'm still talking about it. So, it definitely, definitely sticks with you.
Well, and of course, you being a newbie at the time or relatively new, of course, you'd handle it differently today. But it sticks to you because you're like, well, I trusting the person, that we're questioning, and you're trusting this floor person to make the right decisions, and you just go along with it. And it's unfortunate that that was the take on that. Wow,
Yeah,
that's incredible.
it was
Um,
pretty egregious. Yep.
yeah, that's incredible. Well,
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions. Brian, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay, I think we're going to let Amanda try to get at least a few hours of sleep. I
Yeah,
had no
that.
idea you were in Greece at this moment. I appreciate you accepting the invitation and humoring us in the wee hours of the night there in Greece, Amanda.
Oh, I consider anything before 10 a.m. an ungodly hour. I would rather do things at 2, 3, 4 in the morning than ever having to wake up at 8 or 9 a.m. So we are absolutely fine.
Well, we appreciate you and good luck on the felt and with your immigration paperwork, etc.
Thank you.
Appreciate you and your efforts in the world of poker, and now with the stars. So,
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we'll have to do a separate podcast on that. I can go on that. I'll go on that for hours. I'm just as into it, and I've spent more years studying it than I have actually poker. Because it's actually quite complicated, and it's actually quite technical and mathematical, but that's similar to poker.
well, we will look forward to that additional podcast in the future. We will gaze into the stars with you. And thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us, and all of our listeners. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for being here and for the invitation.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.